Welcome to Trashmagination, a podcast about reimagining trash. I'm Carla Brown. Today's episode is about inflatable pool floats and lawn decorations. This includes huge bouncy castles, air mattresses, rubber dinghies, and floating rainbow unicorns. Sales of inflatable pools have skyrocketed this year as public pools were closed due to social distancing and people wanted to swim in their backyards and on their decks. The Washington Post reported on July 20th that the inflatable pool is the official symbol of America's lost summer. Most of these inflatable items are made from either vinyl, specifically type 3 polyvinyl chloride or PVC, as well as rubber or nylon. None of these materials are recycled in most places, and if you put them in your recycling bin, they will get tangled up in the recycling machinery and make a giant mess. So today we'll talk about ways that people have been creatively reusing them to make both practical items and also some very interesting art installations. The bottom line message for today's podcast, though, is it would be really great if we all stopped buying these things. In 2018, Ingrid Fettel-Lee gave a TED Talk called Where Joy Hides and Where to Find It. She talked about what she called the aesthetics of joy. What are the types of materials, shapes, and experiences that we associate with joy across many cultures? She found that items most associated with joy had these tangible physical characteristics. They were round, colorful, symmetrical, and they gave a sense of abundance or multiplicity, like, for example, if you have many bubbles or many sprinkles. And finally, they gave a feeling of elevation or lightness. So today we are talking about inflatable toys and decorations, and they almost always have these characteristics. And yet the dark side of these materials is that they are never made in a sustainable way. They are fragile, they are almost always ending up in landfill, and they are very difficult to creatively reuse. And while we all want the world to be filled with more joy, we don't want a world with items that are short-lived. There are some recyclers that take vinyl for recycling, and I will link to a website for locations in North America. So next, I'll tell you about an amazing company in the United Kingdom that sews bags from inflatable floaty toys and bouncy castles. It's called Wyatt and Jack, and it's located on the Isle of Wight. They have a program called the Inflatable Amnesty, where they take broken inflatables and they make them into all sorts of imaginative designs of bags. They partner with parks from the National Trust, as well as Thomas Cook resorts, to pick up inflatables left on the beach, often stashed inside or beside trash cans. They then sell the bags in the shops back to the same places where the inflatables were picked up. Wyatt and Jack was started in 2010 by Georgia Wyatt Lovell and Steve Lovell. I enjoy their stories on Instagram. They show videos of themselves picking up inflatables and how heavy they are when you collect a whole bunch. They have creatively reused more than 100 tons of waste. Some of their most popular products are rainbow mermaid designs, which have rows of scales cut in rainbow colors. They also receive lots of inflatables mailed to them directly. Sometimes people ask for a custom bag made from an inflatable that is sentimental to the owner. They make regular unboxing videos showing themselves opening up the inflatables that people mail them, and they are always delighted by the designs. Sometimes they reimburse the postage for certain types of more rare inflatables. As a fun side note, while I was researching about Wyatt and Jack, I learned there is a word which is Lilo, which means inflatable air mattress in the United Kingdom. It seems that Lilo is a brand of air mattress there and has now become the word that people use instead of air mattress. And speaking of international fun facts related to inflatables, when I was a kid learning French, my favorite word was pneumatique, which means inflatable or tire. And I loved how you pronounced the P in this word in French, but not in English. Some of the items that they don't creatively reuse, but which people have asked them to reuse, include rubber footballs, wetsuits, yoga balls, exercise balls, hot tubs, swimming caps, shower curtains, rubber gloves, or helium balloons. Our next company makes bags as well, but not from inflatable toys. Instead, they creatively reuse inflatable rubber boats or dinghies that they pick up on the beaches in Greece, where refugees arrive after treacherous journeys away from places like Syria. This company is called Mimicry, and it's located in Berlin, Germany. They employ refugees to make the bags. This company was started by Vera Gunther after she was volunteering to help refugees in Greece. Once a year, she goes to the beaches to help pick up the rafts and packages, and she partners with groups that are still helping refugees locally, and she brings the materials to Germany to be made into bags. I will link to a podcast interview with Vera where you can learn more about this amazing project. So next I'm going to shift gears from companies who creatively reuse inflatables to make products to artists who incorporate inflatables into their artwork. Now, lots of artists make brand new inflatables sewn into lots of different forms. But of course, I want to talk about artists who are creatively reusing existing materials. The first artist I want to talk about is Nick Cave. So I keep a list of the creative reuse artists who inspire me the most in the world, and Nick is definitely on my top 10 list. I could talk about his work in so many episodes of Trashmagination. Nick gets a lot of his materials for his work from flea markets, but when he decided to make a sculpture from inflatable decorations, he was concerned about mold. So he ordered his inflatables online. It points to some of the challenges of creatively reusing inflatables. He cut up about 1,000 inflatables and sewed them back together in new configurations. When he was done, these became a really humongous inflatable that could fill a huge room. So while Nick did not divert inflatables from landfill with this project, I still wanted to share it because the heart of his project is creative reuse. Nick is best known for a series of works he made called sound suits, which are elaborate wearable sculptures that purposefully cover every inch of a person to disguise their gender, race, and class. He made his first sound suits after the death of Rodney King, and he imagined them as a kind of armor. The sculpture covers the wearer like a second skin, so the viewer cannot have preconceptions about the person wearing it. So in 2019, he made this new kind of sculpture from inflatable lawn ornaments. The exhibit was called Augment, and it was in Boston. In interviews about the exhibit, he connected this work with his previous works, which were about statements about gun violence in our culture. He was thinking about the holidays and how we go into them with the best of intentions, and yet for many people, the holidays are painful. Nick also said that this sculpture was inspired by the concept of the last breath, given that these inflatables are filled with air. Combining sculpture with performance and community engagement is important to Nick. His inflatable sculpture was part of a community event that included a collaborative mural with local artists and a joy parade. Going back to what I said at the very start of this episode about the connection between joy and inflatables, Nick said that the central question of his exhibit was, what brings you joy? So again, we see that connection between inflatables and joy. A year ago, I did a podcast episode about artists who do residencies in landfills, and I talked about the Recology program in San Francisco, which is likely the longest running program of this kind. One artist who did a Recology residency and who made inflatables from items in the landfill was Eric Skolin. He did his residency in 2017. He made large blue inflatable balloons from bright blue jackets that had been discarded by a tech company. He made them an interactive element in his final exhibit at the end of the residency, and he continues to use them as a professor at the California College of the Arts. He normally works with ceramics, but he used this residency to explore other materials. It made me think about how you could make your own inflatables from lightweight clothing. Speaking of making your own inflatables from recycled materials, I want to mention a few inspiring examples in case that sounds fun to you. There are many tutorials for making your own octopus tentacles or other fun inflatables, and mostly they are made using new materials, but there is nothing stopping you from reusing plastic tablecloths or plastic sheets or Tyvek. As I mentioned in previous episodes, I weave plastic bags on a floor loom to make mats, and I often incorporate used plastic tablecloths. If you let people know that you are looking for them, you will get plenty donated to you. Now, you also know that I love trash fashion and making Halloween costumes from recycled materials. And one of my favorite trash fashion shows in the world is in Ireland. It's called Junk Couture. I found a design called Swimming in Plastic that was made from inflatable swimming pools. There must be more junk couture outfits made from inflatables, but I cannot find a place where you get to look up past entries and what they were made from. So if you know where that is, please let me know. But clearly, inflatables are a treasure trove of materials that could be used to design some stupendous trash fashion. In terms of Halloween costumes, I follow an Instagram account called Oat Trash, where there are designers who make lots of trash fashion, and one designer made a Halloween costume from a large inflatable alligator. But there must also be more Halloween costumes made from recycled inflatables, so let me know if you see some. I also saw a dress made from inflatables made by Brenda Liu in Australia. She was one of the artists contributing to a show at a shopping mall called Plastic Boutique, which featured lots of creative reuse crafts. Thank you for listening. If you have made something cool from recycled inflatables or pool floats, please let me know at trashmagination@gmail.com. Thank you for the Apple Podcasts review from This Reusable Life, who said, "This show will help you rethink your trash. Carla gives practical ideas on how to creatively reuse everyday trash items. She's truly inspired me to challenge myself to use materials I have around me for craft and art projects, rather than always buying new." You definitely learned something from this podcast. I would love to read your review in the next podcast episode, so please be sure to leave one. It always helps people find this podcast. Until next time, may you see inflatables as a source of art in your life.